Welcome to Rock the Life, a podcast for fans by fans. I'm Katya
I'm Amy.
and Amy. Today we have another special episode for everyone. Someone who has been playing music for since the 80s in two
Legend.
legendary bands,
Hmm.
Savatage and Trans-Siberian Orchestra, which is one of the most magical bands around that has been playing consistently shows for 25 years. So we're going to dig into both bands. We're going to talk about how Chris was the youngest Judas Priest fan at 12 years old
Right? Oh my
and how this
gosh.
is a man with three lives.
Right? Do you know what really got me? Not to like spoil any of the conversation, but he's saying like you'll see it in there. 12, 14, 15 years old. He had the phone number for management of like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and could just call and get tickets and backstage passes. Like
Yeah,
legend
Amy,
at 12.
there was something in the water in New Jersey at that time. Because
Oh
how did this
yeah.
boy from New Jersey, genius boy from New Jersey,
Right,
go
right.
into what he is now? And
Yeah,
before we go,
just
Amy,
incredible.
have you
Yeah.
seen TSO play live?
I have not. I okay, so Clay's been twice, my mom's been multiple times. I have had like a sick kid or something along those lines each time. But one of the things I love about that is I've heard so many different stories about, oh, my family goes every year. Like whole families go and rock out with TSO. I mean, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to do it. I hope they come back. The last time they were in Eugene, Oregon. So I'm hoping that this Christmas, maybe we'll keep our fingers crossed, they'll come back. And I mean, what an amazing family tradition. It's incredible. It's incredible. I'm so, I need to see TSO.
Another one
So
to
bad.
add to the bucket list, something to look forward to.
Seriously. Seriously. Okay, you guys, I have to tell you, this interview was so amazing and went so well that we have cut it into 2 episodes. So, our conversation with Chris was incredible. So, I really hope you enjoy it. We're going to come to the end of this week, and it's going to kind of be, honestly, a little bit of an awkward stop. But bear with us because we'll get to the rest of it next week, and we really hope you enjoy it. Make sure you like and subscribe so you get the notification for next week for sure. And let us know what you think of part one. All right, you guys, you ready? Here we go.
Here's Chris.
Here's Chris.
Hi, Chris. Welcome to Rock the
Hi,
Life.
Hey.
how you
We
doing?
are
How you doing?
we are doing great. We are
Mm-hmm.
so excited to be talking to you. Actually,
That's the
quite.
truth.
We're trying to control the giddiness because we're that
That's good.
happy.
That's good.
So
Well,
it's
it's
been good.
nice to have giddiness, especially when we're in the middle of the frozen tundra. This is weird because the last couple of winters have been significantly warmer. Then all of a sudden, this last month, it went into like The Shining, where
Yeah,
it's like
right?
I'm at the Overlook Hotel now, and it's like all work and no play makes Chris a dull boy. All work and no play. Wendy, I'm home.
You have to say
Oh, goodness.
I'm lucky. I'm in Rome, so it feels chilly, but it's like wearing a little jacket and nothing like having snow on the ground. So I'm
Yeah,
Mm.
no,
watching y'all
there
from
hasn't been
afar.
bad. Actually, I've liked the snow. We had something happen Saturday night that was really bizarre because it was 30 degrees Fahrenheit and pouring rain, and it
Oh,
That's icy.
happened after we got about 4 or 5 inches of snow. So it has made this crazy layer of ice that's everywhere,
mm-hmm.
and it's hard for
That's
me to walk my dog. It's hard to, I leave spots when I'm shoveling because I don't get everything completely cleared off my decks. But this time doing that, you have these little ice crystals and chunks and things you want to get out of the way. But it has not been above 30 during the day now, so I think
Ugh.
next week it's supposed to rise up a little bit. But it's been definitely a cold
it's been
Cold.
a
last four
cold
weeks.
winter.
The last 4 weeks have
Mm-hmm.
been pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're gonna get ready for you to go on tour to some warmer
Yeah,
places.
that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, you're gonna have the weather shift here. Something significant in a
I
couple
think
weeks.
so because I don't. I think I go down to Wait, when we go down in South America, is it summer or winter? I can't remember.
It
It's
should be
not
warmer because
cold. Yeah.
it's not as
Yeah,
cold. Yeah. Well, I guess
I
it
always
depends.
forget how that goes with that down
Right.
there.
Pack for
They have
everything.
a different winter than we do.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh
well,
goodness.
Chris, just a little background. Our podcast is um, for fans by fans. So we talk a lot about fan experiences. And so we know a lot of how you got into Sabotage and, kind of like your history. But was there a moment, when you were young, when you realized this is what I want to be doing?
As far as music goes,
Hmm.
Music, yes. In the heavy metal world and the rock
as
world.
far back as I can remember, which is crazy because I never had in my head thought of myself doing anything else, which is kind
Okay.
Oh.
of fortunate that I became successful because I didn't have a backup plan. But I know when I was a little kid, I mean, there was no Guitar Center. You had music stores, but you
Hmm.
didn't really get a chance to go to them when you were 4 years old and 5 years old. But my mom would go to this store. It was called when Sears was in all the malls and even the smaller ones. They had like their surplus store where their overstock
Hmm.
would go. So Sears surplus had this center in the middle where there was some electronics, and they had electric guitars up there, and they were probably like cheap different kind of versions of Gibsons and stuff. But I would just go in there and stare at them, and I'd gotten some Beatles records when I was right around that age, like 4 years old, 5 years old, and it's just what I wanted. It's so weird. It's what I wanted to do. And then my next door neighbors had bought me Wings Over America because I always liked the heavier music that was on the
Hmm.
records, and like Revolution and Helter Skelter. It was like I was into whatever the Beatles did that was heavier, and that Wings Over America live record kind of really sold me into going, this would be really cool. I mean, when I was in first grade, I did help in my show and tell. I sang it.
I
So,
know that's
I think I was
because
probably 5 then because I was a young kid. I was a September baby, so I
Hmm.
was kind of a year before everybody in my age when I got into the school. So I was,
Welcome to the club. We are all September babies on this call. Thank you very much.
yeah, the Virgos were all a special unit of people.
So true.
Yeah,
well, because
yeah.
like Chris, you have been playing with massive musicians like your whole life since you were a teenager. And was it just like always like this is how it's going, or was there a moment where you were playing with these bands, invited on these tours, and being like, "Wow, I can't believe I'm playing with these legends"?
Uh, I mean, everything happened so fast that I was in the process of being overwhelmed by being on a tour bus at the same time I was by opening for Ronnie Dio, so it was the whole process was overwhelming, having hotels, having catering, having tour buses, having, crew
As a
and
child.
having, yeah. And at that point in time, MTV was the shit. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
it controlled everything. So, we, were playing at a time when heavy metal was very trendy too. So,
Hmm.
the Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, Van Halen time of MTV. So I was like a short, fat kid with glasses in school. I was a straight A student who never even dated. I remember asking a girl to a prom or something, and she said no, but then I overheard her and her friends talking about it, and they were laughing and saying they would rather go out with nobody than go out with me. So it was like I was
Oh,
kind of thing where all of a sudden I'm in this on the stage and I'm playing, and there's people around, and like chicks dig me. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can't
There
imagine
was,
that was more than that
yeah,
was more than
it was like
a
there
year or
was an
two between that
overwhelming
happening.
there was an overwhelming about a number of wows going on at the same time. Apart from every day walking into an arena and having Ronnie Dio go, "Hi, Chris." It's like, okay, that's weird enough,
ah,
you know. Or
yeah.
Dave Mustaine, with his head down, he looked through his hair, looked to the side, "Up, Chris," and keep going.
Like,
That kind of at that point in time, they were just, they had just had Peace Cells, and
Mm.
I knew who Megadeth was, but I never really saw them before, and then I watched them the night after our first show, and I saw just how much those kids were freaking out over them and how the whole arena was singing the lyrics for Peace Sells. And I'm like, all right, this band's about to explode. So you could just tell what was going to be happening
Mm-hmm.
for them.
So
Wow.
before that, when you were like, since you being, an East Coast guy with like the amazing music scene that was happening back then, were you going to clubs and seeing these bands play? Or were you a
Well,
part of the club scene?
yeah, I mean, I started to go see concerts when I was pretty young. And then, me and my brother would get on the trains and go. I lived near a train stop in Jersey that went into New York City, so I was able to go see a lot of things. And when I was 12, I actually won a contest that got me backstage to Judas Priest on their British Steel tour. So I had met them then, and then the
At
next year,
12.
Iron Maiden opened for them, and Priest remember who I was because I was like the youngest fan they ever had. So they got me backstage. I met Maiden, then Maiden started getting me backstage. So for like 12, 13, 14, 15,
This
16,
is
I was able to call their tour managers and get tickets and backstage passes because I was this super young kid that was probably the youngest metal fan around at the time. And, I kept giving them demos and letting them see me and being like, I'm going to be where you are one day. And then, when I finally did get to tour with Priest and stuff like that, there was a lot of memories that came out of that thing. But there was a time when I was 17 years old, and that's when I had run into the people that had changed my life that eventually introduced me to Paul O'Neill. And when people ask me what it was that got me my big break, I tell them it was fake ID because my brother was 19, I was 17. New York's
go
drinking
ahead,
age
brother.
was 19. It changed to 21,
I
but
remember
he
that.
still had a non-picture license at that time. And if you were 19, you got grandfathered in. So I had his license, social security card, I had a credit card. So I would go to these clubs and go to the door first and get in. And then my brother, and I looked like I was probably 10 at that time, but I mean, my brother would go in behind me 15 minutes later with the picture license and we would watch these bands. But there was a hangout place in New York City that I went to on a Thursday night once, which goes back to the Judas Priest stories actually, because I found out about this place because there was a record store in Nanuet, New York that
Mm-hmm.
was called Tapeville, I think, and the guy working there kind of looked a little bit like Glenn Tipton. His name was Rob Pizarek, but he went as Riff Thunder. He was the original guitar player in Overkill.
Okay.
And me and my brother were in there talking to him. I think I was probably 13 or 14 at that time, but we told him that we knew Priest. And
He's like,
he was like, yeah, get up. But,
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
kids.
well, if you can drive, they're playing down in Asbury Park. And he drove me and my brother down to that concert. But, a few years later, when we still hung out as friends, Riff Thunder was like, hey, there's a really cool hangout night going on in New York City on Thursdays at this club that was on the Times Square building in New York City on 42nd Street. That the news was around it, like on the 17th floor or 18th floor. Was two floors. It was an Indian restaurant that turned into like the place to hang out on Thursdays, where if like Whitesnake was in town, Coverdale was there, whoever was in town was there.
Wow.
And I had met the singer of the band Heaven, who at that point in time had Knocking on Heaven's Door on MTV, but Mitch Perry had left the band. I had a cassette tape in my pocket of my club band and said, I heard you're looking for a guitar player. And I gave him the cassette. He called me the next day. He was flying to California and said, I think, when I get back to New York, I want you to be in the band. And that is when I went up to the management for the first time and I saw Paul O'Neill walk in the room and I'm like, wait a second, I met him before because I was friends with Ray Gillen. And when I went to see Heaven on New Year's Eve, even before, when Mitch was still in the band, I was hanging out with Ray and Paul had came by and said hello to the table, but I didn't know who he was. So that's who wound up being my manager and producer with Heaven. And then he started producing Savatage the next year and Heaven kind of disbanded. And he was like, well, this band sounds needs to be bigger live. I want you to be the second guitar player. And
Yeah.
that's where that all had happened from there. So there's a lot of being in the right place at the right time. Plus I was good at what I did. I was kind of what they call a natural, I guess. I was able to play, all the music that I was listening to pretty well. I was better at first at rhythm, obviously, than lead, and I've learned a lot about that as I got older. But I was a really solid guitar player at that age. I was a very solid
Teenager.
17-year-old. Like I
I
could play with the pros, and
I
that's what got me where I was.
I feel like, Chris, if the statement has ever been made where you could say I was born to do this, that's absolutely true
That's
for you. Because I feel like it has to be in your DNA, or it's that I
t-
yeah,
Yeah, I
for
guess I
and
don't know what
it's
else. I was either, I don't know. I would have been probably the best zookeeper who ever lived. I mean, I just don't really know what else I would. I was very smart at 156. I say had, might still be there. 156 IQ. I was, in the top three in my class. I graduated high school at 16, and I just had absolutely no desire to stay in school. I wanted to go do what I did. I was like, I found X comes before Y and
mm,
Z. I don't need you to have me spend an hour finding X anymore. I
mhm.
think that's the complicated maths were what really scared me away from school. I was like, this is not fun at all. But I mean, at that point in time, though, computers were starting, and I did enjoy
Mhm.
making programs and games because I had a computer where you actually had to put in the math to make
Mhm.
the frames and invent your own Pong or whatever kind of game it
My
was.
dad
So
had that too. My dad had
yeah,
one
so
too.
maybe I would have wound up being a gazillionaire computer designer, but that doesn't really
no, I'm
really
much
make it
happy
out
that you're
for my own
that
personal.
you're
It's like I'd rather be what I
a
am.
gazillionaire musician. No, it is
Yeah.
like
Oh, I just would rather be, in my own little world with this than have to kind of deal with that world and the tech
Mhm.
world. I'm more of the artist than I am the tech. It's like, and I
well,
really enjoy looking at the animation side of movies and stuff like that. That might have been something I enjoyed doing, the actual animation side of art and movies. But I think I'm pretty much where I was supposed to be.
you're a creative artist, and like there's so
Yep,
many other
yep.
topics I even want to get into, from your art and your hot sauces and all the other things you're. I mean, you are so creative in everything you do. I mean, and
Mhm.
plus you can't. The music that you have made with TSO, and so it's different. Like the rock operas, it's absolutely brilliant. But so you're 17, you're a young man playing with all these musicians. Did any of them give you any advice or really help you out in your career that you've looked up to and continue to look up to?
I mean, you pretty much got advice from everybody in some ways. Some advice was on the right things to do and how to do things well, and some advice was things definitely not to do. It's like I watched people ruin their careers back then,
Mhm.
by actions and activities that they did. I graduated high school and probably made it, right till I was about 18 before I even had my first drink. I've never even tried a cigarette, but I did. I had my
Excellent.
years when I got on the road with John Oliva. I did have a lot of fun. It was just one of these things. I just would go out and I would have fun and I think there was a lot of times where if I was a cat, I was probably a triplet. So I probably had, you know,
27 lives.
it was not 9 lives. There
Yeah,
was
yeah.
I went to 18 and I went to 27. I had more lives than your average cat. It was definitely a lot of fun. But I there was guitar players that would teach you certain things. As I got into writing. Somebody like Paul
Mm,
O'Neill taught me a lot about
Paul
lyrics.
O'Neill.
I didn't really pay attention to lyrics when I was a little kid. I never did. I was a guitar player, and most of the times I heard people singing because it was LPs and they didn't have the lyrics in them. So I was James Browning my way through all these records. I didn't know what the hell they were saying. But, Paul really opened my eyes to the importance of lyrics and songs. And, he told me that anybody could write a song about a car or a girl, but it really takes somebody special to write a song that changes somebody's life. So I think I started to really dig deeper into lyrics. And when I was writing my own, I kind of, I went there with it. And I learned a lot with him when I did my record about the Iraq war. I attached the story and kind of built it all together like that. So I definitely had learned a lot from him on writing and production. And I think we were kind of similar with a lot. Paul always liked to be as over the top as possible. It was the most. I remember when Heaven was playing at a place called Lemoore East in Brooklyn. I mean, actually, it was in Queens, and Skid Row was opening for us before Sebastian was even in the band.
Wow.
And yeah, and that was this night where he goes and we were getting paid. I forget what amount of money it was at that point in time, but he spent like all of it on lights. And he was like, "Oh, we're not going to be able to give you guys.
Okay.
We're going to have
Are we
break."
surprised about this?
Wanting to always be that level of like kind of almost over the top. And the Heaven at that time, my brother was actually playing drums, and then the bass player for this show was Tommy Henriksen, who's the guitar player with Alice Cooper now. He was playing bass then, and they had Mark Cunningham, the guitar player, who was on the Knocking on Heaven's Door record. He was the other guitar player with me, and I bought Mark's 1957 Les Paul for $2,400 when I was 17 or 18 years old. He needed some money, and it was just funny because he had got it from Rick Derringer and played like baseball stadiums with Derringer with that guitar. And then when I was at a Savatage temporarily and I needed some money for something, I went and sold it for $4,000 and thought I was cool getting the money. And now it's worth like $100,000. And I'm like, idiot. But yeah. So, I mean, I think I learned to hold on to my old guitars, and actually I hang on to a lot of them now, because there was even ones that I didn't think I would need anymore, and somebody asked if they could buy them, and you did, and you look at it now and you're seeing people like, holy crap, somebody's selling that guitar for one just like it for $10,000, and you would sell it for like $1 or $2,000, and it's like, wow. And so things, guitars have a good age on them. So I could go down a whole entire list of things that you learn, but you get older and wiser. I think that is the thing. So you just kind of collect your information and you channel it to when the correct time it is to use it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take that to the flip side, because looking at all the musicians you play with TSO and every year, do you have young musicians asking you for advice now?
Oh.
Not only young musicians, I'll have their parents and people asking me advice for them, and I'm like, run. I like to see them before I give them advice a lot of times, because I can be a little bit of a visionary when I see somebody playing. Like, I can tell what kind of potential they have. So, I can be honest with their parents about what they're doing. If I think somebody is somebody that can definitely take this to a different level, I will push the parents to don't let this kid stop. It's like, I never tell them not to do what they want to do, but if I see somebody that definitely, because there's a lot of risk in this business, psychologically, financially, back to psychologically. So you have to really focus yourself, and it's not the same as it was when I was a kid, because records aren't selling. So you have to really develop an individual product and find a way to sell yourself. And I just think that the best thing you could do is make yourself somebody that is likable, Don't go into a situation where people will not like working with you because that will roll
Mm-hmm.
over to somewhere else, and just try to be the best at what you can be. And I always tell kids to try to find themselves, too, because it's really easy to play what somebody else does, but it's very rare with somebody who's a Prince or Freddie Mercury or something like that. And you don't know if that might be inside one of these people. Like they might have that creative engine inside them, and you never know unless you try. I never knew I could sing until I tried, and I think if I would have went into that world, I always wanted to sing, but back in the 80s, you had to be Rob Halford. You had to be
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie Dio. You had to be David Coverdale, or you weren't good enough to be the lead singer. Then you had the LA scene come out there, and people went into more of the kind of hair metal sort of music, and the singers were not on that level of those singers. But I didn't want to sing like them. I wanted to sing like
Mm-hmm.
Steve Perry. So I didn't have the
Yeah.
desire to go and put makeup on and be a hair metal front band. I wanted to go up there, and I did want to sing like Ronnie Dio and those people. So I would sit in my room when nobody was around, and I would sing loudly along with the PAs. And when I was writing my solo stuff, and I finally got Pro Tools, and I listened back, I'm like, wow, I'm not that bad. And then I took lessons, and I realized, like, holy crap, I could have sang the whole time. I didn't realize that there's a couple different levels of singers. The person that naturally sings, and then if you have the vocal talents, you can train your voice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I really didn't understand. And unfortunately, once you're known as a guitar player, it's hard to be known as a singer. It's a weird thing because somebody like Richie Kotzen's one of the best singers out there, and people never think of Richie as a singer. And like he destroys 95% of the singers out there, but because he was, Richie Kotzen, the guitar player, he
Yep.
doesn't get that reputation as a singer. And that's where I'm not, the singer he is, but when you put your records out, people are like, oh, if somebody else was to sing, it's like, oh, whatever, F you. That's the reason why I sang, is because I wanted to. I didn't want somebody else to sing it.
Yeah.
Singers are a pain in the butt. They're very,
You
they're
have to
difficult.
deal with those egos.
Singers get their butts kissed. I got to be honest with you. They really do. And they, if they're great, they're blessed with a lot of really great situations that if they're good enough to take advantage of it, they do get a different kind of treatment. I mean, it's the lead
Mm-hmm.
singer. They're very, very, very important to a band, so that's what but they can also be mental cases and really difficult to work with too, because that power, I think it's a mixture of they don't really need to practice, so they've got a lot of free time, and they've got that power. It comes to a lot of situations to where
Mm-hmm.
they can become a pain in the butt mentally, because I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they just look for things to do or need. Become needy, and it's always funny in situations that we have. We would always talk about the singers and say like they're the 10%ers, and then that was something that actually Johnny Middleton had come up with. They said because they'll do 10% of the work, but they'll have 90% of the bitch.
90%.
So it's like kind of
Mm-hmm.
one of those things. But I've had the pleasure of working with some of the greatest singers on the planet, so I'm really lucky with that. So that's why when I do my solo stuff, I pay respect to whoever I can, and I think one day I'll probably wind up with an acoustic guitar showing up playing live for people just for fun
That
when
would be
I'm an old
that would
time
also be
nurse. But
incredible.
for now, I still enjoy the power of the electric guitar. I think it's a powerful thing. But I also tell people too, if you 1 + 1 is 2, you've known that your whole entire life. But if you can't have somebody walk up to you and tell you it's 3 and say you're right, and shake their head and walk away with a smile, get the
Oh.
frick out of the business now. Because music business has a lot of things in it that don't make sense, and everybody's a critic. And there's going
Mm-hmm.
to be somebody that's going to tell you that thing you worked hardest on and you're the most proud of in your life is terrible. And you have to be able to control that and walk past it. And it's not just in the critics for music, that happens in the critics for the hot sauces I do, and it happens in critics and just about everything else. And I think in
Mhm.
life, you get the critics in the way you dress and the way you talk and the way you answer questions. It's the cyber world has made
A
everybody
critic.
a star and everybody a critic. So, and I
Hmm.
think some people just enjoy to disagree. Even if you
And
put
it's
something
an
up
easier
there,
platform.
99 out of 100 people can like what you say. There's got to be the one person that steps in there and shits all over your Cheerios just so they can get the attention.
Yep.
Because it's a really easy outlet for people to have responses. And that was something we never had when we were younger.
That's true.
Especially if you weren't going to be a musician, or you weren't a boss, or you weren't an actor, or you weren't a lawyer or a doctor. You didn't get the kind of respect or attention that people get by typing a sentence
Posting it.
on
Mm-hmm.
a freaking computer and hitting send.
Well, okay, I'm going to ask you then, because the music industry has, in some ways, really changed in the last, since you were starting out, and with the effects of like social media. How are you using social media to like advance your career or connect with fans? Do
Socially.
you find it easier or is it more difficult? Socially.
Okay. Point taken.
Well, you gotta look at it this way. If you don't have it, you really don't have the way to connect. So
Hmm.
for
Yeah,
me,
I can see that. Yeah.
I try to stay active enough to where people are paying attention to what I'm doing for a couple different reasons. Because you keep yourself relevant, you keep growing your audience, and
Yeah.
not everybody stays on a you know certain outlet. Now they'll be changing from site to site and stuff like that. So you like keeping things
Mm,
growing. But I create music and art, and
hmm.
I'm not cycling myself on those sites. My music and art doesn't cycle itself. So when I want to, I take the art that I do with Wilbur, and I'm able to sell it like that.
Hmm.
If I don't do the channeling, it doesn't go anywhere. And it's not saying that
Yeah.
it's just one of these things where you become. I'm my own salesman. I'm my own promotion company. I'm on my own TV commercials. So, I mean, I use it for that. I use it for people to hear my songs when they come out, when they, see what shows I'm doing, what, like I said, art or hot sauce or whatever. But I've also recently, as I've been digging through, cleaning up old boxes and releasing records, and, Savatage went through doing its whole entire catalog in vinyl, and we were asked to grab things from those years. And then I have a 20 years of Music Man. I'm doing my first vinyl release this year, which is fun. So
Oh, fun.
just assembling things. I
Have you
recorded
decided
a
on a
song.
color?
Well, here's the thing. I have a limited choice of um, colors for right now, and there's reasons for that. I was basically told if you want multiple colors, you can only have a single record. If you want all, you know,
Oh.
yeah. So to get the double record and to deal with my label and the cost of the double album, I have a limited colors for my record. Just being completely honest with
Hmm.
why that's there.
Hmm.
Black is lovely.
Well, I picked I like the gold, but then they sent me a gold to show me that it didn't look very fancy when it was done. It kind of looks like a little like crinkled
Oh, you should
gold
see.
aluminum foil, which I don't know if that bothers me or not, because actual gold comes out of the ground crinkled. So I have to think about that. I mean, part of me just wants to go with the clear and have
Oh,
no,
the
Oh,
clear. Yeah, that's
that would be
nice. Yeah.
awesome.
just eliminate the color. Go here. It's just got a label, but I don't. I like the one that matches the color of the cover too. I mean,
Hmm.
the blue is nice. The blue transparent. I mean, it's down to those three whether or not I want to take the sloppy gold, the one that really matches the cover, which is what the label wants, or the
Wasn't
blue,
that the
which
oxblood or whatever it was called?
yeah, the oxblood,
Yeah,
whatever it's.
that's. Can they
I
make
think
that
it's
one
pretty.
transparent? Like the blue,
That's
the
the whole
blue
thing.
caught my
I asked them
eye.
and it's not in the transparent
Um,
list. So I think I might message this company and say, hey, do you guys have a way to make that transparent? Because it's a transparent red. I think that wouldn't they just have to drip
yeah.
one other drip of something in there? I think it's just a matter of,
I think this is like
Yeah.
your next endeavor. You're going to
yeah, so
figure
I'll
this
figure
out.
it out. But I mean, as I find things when I'm looking around, like I'm in the same room that I had written like the Dr. Butcher records in now because I went back home and took over my family's house, and I love creating here, but I have boxes and boxes and boxes of decades of my life, and I'll find things and then I'll take pictures of them and I'll put them online. And the good thing about it is it makes me think about what it was I did when it happened. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like my own little storybook. I mean, and that's why I like Instagram better than
I love
Facebook
Instagram.
from a
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we
as a
love
creative
Instagram.
medium because Facebook kind of gets jumbled and you know your my music's different than my personal. People like the personal more than they do the music, and the bots on the Facebook music will see you putting out something. They'll know it's a business post, so when they see a product they
Yep.
cut your views down. I can get a
Mm-hmm.
thousand likes on a picture of a freaking Snickers, and if I put up a fucking thing with music,
Yep.
and it's like the computers know to cut you
And
to nothing. So hey, pay, and we'll let more people see it. And
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
that just has happened. I remember when MySpace had first came out, I got up to like 50,000 MySpace friends, and you used to be able to put a message out to every one of them. And then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden,
yeah,
when the powers of be money came along, they cut you down to like 400. You know, you went from
Yeah.
50,000 to 400. And it was like, that was a big jump. And then Facebook came out and everybody's like, go here, go here. But now all those sites are in that same kind of position.
so
But I
many
think
sites.
Instagram is pretty much the one that, you know, since you are, you know, it's kind of it's more like a single post kind of a place. You know,
It
it's,
is. It's
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I think
We get
that,
most of our traction there too.
I don't think they read it the same way. It doesn't really seem to control what people, you know, when I put up a picture of a record or a concert or my products, it doesn't seem to be any less. So I think that
Yeah.
that's a balance in the bots there. And then you can share from Instagram to Facebook. You
You can't
can't,
do it the other way.
but you got to post twice. And the whole thing is kind of a pain in the butt. But, you know, if you disappear from it, you disappear from your ability to channel what it is
That's
you're
Yep.
true.
doing. As I'm still selling music and art, I'll still say in it. I mean, I've had a lot of situations with that I don't love, and I've had plenty of reasons to walk away from it. But you know, with the same respect, I know that back when I had written, I think probably the first internet tour diary ever. I think it's actually documented that I did somewhere when we first the first Savatage.com back in around 96. I did an internet tour diary, and I think I was the first artist to ever do that. Every day, put it on the website. It was there every day on the
Oh, that's
Savatage.com
awesome.
what had happened that day. And we had a message board, and then I opened ChrisCaffery.com, and then I had a really interactive message board. I mean, my ChrisCaffery.com message board had right around, you know, 50,000 people, and they were going there every single day, and the posts and the
Yeah, that's.
activity was nuts. I mean, I posted
I,
my what's child is this instrumental song on my own website back then, and I had 400,000 listens in 2 days.
that's
You know, and it
incredible.
was that kind of generation of energy with that. I mean, now it's like, you know, if you put something on, you might get, you know, be lucky if you get 1,000 listens an hour on a lot of things, and it's just completely different then. But there was a ton of people that went to my site and became friends, and you know,
That's what's
it's called
beautiful.
Caffrey's
Yeah.
Corner, and they all connected, and these
Mm-hmm.
people have stayed friends throughout years. And you know, I think that a lot of these people, in many ways, have taken on to like me and Wilbur is kind of like their friends and Cheers and MASH. You know, it's
Yep.
like we're part of their life the same way that a lot of the old TV shows were. You know, except
Part of ours.
we're real
Part,
live
yeah.
we're real live comedians. So it's like
Well,
it's a
do you
different
still
kind
have?
of thing. But that's why I feel that there's a direct balance. Like I said, there are people that abuse it, and there's tons of fake sites and tons of fake people, and whatever the case may be. But I'm smarter
So
than
many
I was.
positive
I'm
connections.
smarter than I
Yeah.
was then, and I avoid politics, and that keeps you out of trouble. As much as
Yep.
I
Oh,
want to say something, I know not to. And it's like I'll just let everybody else argue about it because I'm too tired to deal with it anymore. It's like my friends and my family hate each other over politics now, and it's like
Yep.
this is so ridiculously stupid, and it's exactly the way people want it. They want if we don't hate each other, then nobody gets ratings, and you don't have ratings, you don't have polls. You don't have polls, you don't get campaign finance. You don't have campaign finance. It's like they
yeah,
if everybody liked the same person, there'd be no money.
there's no problem to,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's like we're. I always think that at the end of the day, they're all probably in the same room going cheers, calling things.
Get it? Yeah, just to
They
get the,
just won
well,
lotto together and they're splitting it. But I've just tried to stay out of it. I wrote
Yeah.
my record on the war and had my expressions about
yes.
that, and I had some things and some songs, and I saw when people disagreed with something that I thought was so obviously what people should feel, and I'm going, okay, this world is getting different now.
Hmm.
There's and some of these people, like I said, just want to generate the crap. And for me, I find it much more satisfying to know that I'm frustrating the shit out of them by not having the things they could complain about. You
Well,
know,
and you're putting so much positive out there too. And like,
Hmm.
look how many people are rallying around it.
yeah, and I had fun. I mean, when
So,
COVID was going on, I did the exact opposite of a lot of people, which is probably stupid. I do that a lot of times, but so many people went to the net, and I know people that got like 100,000 followers on YouTube, and their things always get played and this, that, and the other thing. When I disappeared, I was like, well, the whole entire world's going to the net. I'm going to disappear from the net. But now, as the world is leaving the net, people
Yeah.
have been kind of going back towards me because I was, I just had a different kind of character and place to do with that. But I didn't want to be out there at that point in time. I just wanted to get away and do my own thing at that time. But yeah, like I said, I just was watching what was happening and the way that things were interacting, and I was going, wow, this is
no, I think we're going to see another shift now too.
yeah,
Um,
it's getting interesting right now, and luckily I just went and did my music and my art at that point in time. I was doing my artwork and
Yeah.
getting a chance to work
It's
daily on
therapy.
that. Yeah, it was fun.
are you going to be doing a tour vlog for this tour coming up?
Yeah, I mean the Savatage tour is definitely going to get a lot of daily attention. There'll be posts by me. There'll be posts by Wilbur's going to be meeting a lot of people he's never met.
Wilbur.
And now that he speaks, I'm sure that he's going to try to learn foreign languages. So I think as Wilbur speaks every language in every country we go to, he's gonna be funny.
I
There's
know
so much.
somebody who
People
might
are going to
see
have.
you.
Yeah,
I know a few people who might see you, but one person
yeah.
in particular
It'll,
who
it'll be
might
funny to
might
watch Wilbur try to
might
speak
wind up at a show.
Portuguese and French and all these other places that we're going. He's going to try to learn every language, and at the end, he's going to probably have a combination of all of them. So
That would be
yeah, it's funny with that. I don't like selfies, so that's the reason why he started taking pictures with people.
okay.
I'd be like, "Hey, can you get a picture with this elephant?" And people would do it, and now that he's become a thing, it's kind of like
Yeah.
we're like, "Where is he? I got to get my picture with him." And it's like, oh, it's funny. So
And this is, I don't know if I could ask this. Is there only one Wilbur?
That
So,
Wilbur, yes, there's only one of
okay.
that particular Wilbur.
Okay. So please take care.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I had actually at the end of this TSO tour, I was walking down with my bags at the arena in Toronto to bring the stuff that was going back to the warehouse, and he was in a little bag on my side and fell. And I got downstairs into the arena, and he wasn't there. And the bus driver for the females on a TSO tour had found him, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I would have been.
Could
It
you?
would
I
have been
can't.
pretty dramatic because I really would have felt like I let myself down,
Left.
because there's a lot of that little character that's been a big part of the last 10 years, and
Mm-hmm.
I need to secure that. But
It's
yeah,
insurance.
that's the original one. There is only him. I mean, I have backups, but it's not the same one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never had to use the backups.
Yeah. Yeah.
He travels with the backup, one of them, and the backup's in the pictures, and nobody ever says which one's Wilbur, so nobody notices that other one's there. So this one is getting probably so dirty and squished and mushed that he just definitely looks like his own Wilbur at this point. So yeah, he's his own character.
That's awesome.
Amy, that was fun. It was beautiful. I love the way Chris talks about the influence of Paul
Mm.
O'Neill on his mentorship, how he's influenced him in songwriting. I mean, you could feel that love and amazingness
Yeah, you
that
could.
he's continuing and
Yeah.
keeping the music alive, as we like to say, and bringing it to a whole new generation.
Yeah. And I
That was fun.
love, yeah, it was. I love Chris's artistic abilities, and what we just give you the little clip of before was Metal Fant. So that's kind of fun and encouraging.
I
And if
feel
you
for
haven't had a
Melvin.
chance to, if you don't follow, Metal Fant has his own page, and Chris makes some amazing bracelets and all that kind of stuff that he puts up on his site. So make sure that you absolutely check those out, and just incredible. We really hope you loved episode 1. If you are listening on a podcast streaming service, do whatever they ask you to do, to follow, subscribe, like, leave a comment, whatever you need to do. And gosh, you guys, this is episode 30, Katya. We have just completed 30 episodes. Can you believe it? Like, I remember when we were first talking, and you're like, oh my gosh, 24 episodes. That's like a lot. How are we going to get to 24 episodes? And here
I
we are
can't
at
wait for
30.
the next 30. I know.
I
It has been
know.
so fun.
Yeah, we're loving this, you guys. Hope you're enjoying the shows also. We do have merch if you're interested in picking up a Rock the Life t-shirt or sweatshirt at rtlmerch.com. You can follow us on our socials at Rock the Life Girl on Instagram, where we're most active, Threads, and TikTok. And is that it? If you have a story to tell, oh my gosh, let us know. Also, I have a new one. Leave us a comment as to who you'd like to see on the show. If you have somebody you'd like us to interview, let us know, and we can do what we can do. And
I'll be
see what we
sending you
can
my
see.
notes.
Yeah, right. You have some ideas. Yeah, same.
I have some ideas.
All right, my friend. You guys, thanks for joining us for episode 1, episode 2 next week. And
It's going to be fun.
as always, don't forget,
Rock
rock the life.
the life.
Bye, babe. See you next week.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you too.